Today's book talk is related to some posts I've made recently. You may have seen that recently I've been posting for some vinyl releases for a band called Stavesacre. Now, Stavesacre is not a ska band and not a punk band, so it doesn't fit what's typically on the Rudie Librarian channel. But it is related in the sense that the lead singer of Stavesacre, Mark Salomon, has also been in bands like The Crucified and Outer Circle, which are punk bands. Stavesacre is a band that had a huge influence on me when I was younger. They're one of the most important bands that was a part of the Tooth and Nail record label during the 1990s Christian music scene, which is a scene that I grew up very much a part of. And the book that I want to talk about today is deeply related. So this book is called Simplicity by Mark Salomon. Now, Mark Salomon is the lead singer of all those bands that I talked about. He's also been in bands called like White Lighter. He contributed to Argyle Park 2 or AP2's album. He is a phenomenal musician, singer, specifically singer. He's a great writer. He's a podcaster. And like I think now he works for NASCAR. So a very diverse guy who's done a lot of stuff and lived a very interesting life. And I had the privilege of meeting him years and years ago when I was in junior high, and his band came and played in my town. So Stavesacre is one of those bands that had a huge influence. This book, I read this book back when it came out. So this book, Simplicity by Mark Salomon, I think it came out in, let's take a quick look-see, shall we? Came out in 2005. And this book is part memoir, biography type book about Mark Salomon. But a lot of what it talks about is the band and, the development of the band, the development of their material, touring, and it talks about that Christian music scene of the 90s and early 2000s. That was there. I mean, there was essentially a whole Christian music subculture where there was punk bands and ska and hardcore bands and all that kind of stuff, and it was kind of treated with disdain by those that were not part of that scene. But it was it was an introduction to those styles of music for a lot of people like me. And it was also, nice to have stuff that you could relate to lyrically. Whereas, as much as I loved Blink 182, I wasn't living the kind of life that their lyrics professed a lot of times, But Mark Solomon's Simplicity deals with that. And it deals with the challenges of that Christian music scene. Because if you were part of that Christian music scene, you could get paid really well, better than you might get paid by touring really like small venues in the mainstream music scene. But you also were expected to live kind of a perfect life and do whatever it was that people at churches wanted you to do at the shows in order to promote Jesus. And that was something that was really difficult for a lot of the people that were touring. So there's some really interesting stories here of those expectations and what would happen if you didn't comply with those expectations. Ultimately, if you're a fan of Stavesacre, The Crucified, Outer Circle, if you're a fan of Mark Salomon's blog, if you're a fan of the Christian music scene of the 90s and 2000s, or if you're just curious, this is a really great book and you should definitely pick it up.